I think a lot of times we deny those gifts. When we deny those, that's where we run into maybe some challenges, right? Because we're not honoring our true path. Not everyone's meant to be an artist. Like, Lord knows I'm not meant to be an artist, but we need artists in the world. Can you imagine a world without art? Can you imagine a world without poetry?
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Living Albuquerque. I'm Jennifer Wilson. Today's conversation is one I'm especially excited about because we're talking about something that touches so many folks here in Albuquerque. It's higher education, opportunities, and building a future here in New Mexico. Whether you're a high school student who's trying to decide what's next, or someone looking to go back to school, higher education can feel exciting and a bit overwhelming. So today we're talking about what that path looks like here in Albuquerque and why there are more opportunities than ever before. I'm so happy to have my close friend, Dr. Marissa Juarez, joining me today. Marissa is the Writing Program Director and English faculty at Central New Mexico Community College, also known as CNN. She's had an interesting story and perspective on education here in New Mexico. She was born in Lubbock, grew up in Hobbs, and eventually moved to Albuquerque to go to college at UNM, where she got her bachelor's and her master's degree. Then she went to the University of Arizona, where she got her PhD in rhetoric, composition, and teaching of English. On top of that, she's about to become a grandma for the very first time. So Marissa, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Before we go into higher education, what do you want your first grandchild to call you?
I don't know. I feel like it's a very strange stage to be in, happening a little bit earlier than expected. I feel very young, so in many ways I'm like, I have not earned the title of grandma yet, because I think about my grandmother, who was very wise and a lot older than I was when I was a child, kind of looking up to her. So I've tossed a few names around. Right now I'm kind of leaning toward Marmar, which is kind of like my, dip my toe into the grandma world, and before, we'll see how it goes. There's going to be so many grandmothers for this baby, so I feel like something that's going to make me a little bit distinct from the others, and I think they're probably thinking the same thing, but there's some grandmothers, some great grandmothers that will probably be grandma.
Well, I know a few of those great grandmas, and I'm going to say you're probably going to be the coolest. Not to say that they're not individual contribution, but yeah, I'm really excited. And it's okay not
Thanks.
to be embarrassed. Many people become grandmothers at 36. You've got such a New Mexico story. Growing up in Hobbs, coming to Albuquerque for college, building your career here. School brought you to Albuquerque originally, but what's kept you in Albuquerque?
There's so many things. I mean, family is a big part of why I stay here. My dad, he passed away in January, but for my whole life, he stayed in Hobbs. He lived in southeast New Mexico, and beyond that, my mom is here in Albuquerque. My husband's family, namely his mom and our son, are here in Albuquerque, and so I think family has been kind of the glue that has kept us here. But beyond that, New Mexico's home. I love New Mexico for so many reasons. I could name a million, but Albuquerque is the largest city, and so it has the most resources and the most opportunities for things to do. And so, if I'm gonna stay in my home state, I want to be in a place that has a lot going on, and Albuquerque definitely does.
Yeah, for sure. So is that one of the things you love about Albuquerque is the size?
Yeah, I love a mid-size like small big city, right? Like it's not a huge city, it's not overwhelming. It's easy to get from one place to the next. It's enough people to make it interesting. There are different pockets that are all unique about this place, and so I think it's a perfect city size for me. So if I ever left Albuquerque for some reason or another, it would have to be a similar size city. I don't think I could ever go to like a place as big as like New York City or Denver, even, or Phoenix. It would have to be something that's manageable, like Albuquerque, easy to get around and navigate.
I
And
agree.
also the mountains, I can't leave these mountains. They're so beautiful.
Yeah, no, for sure. Those Andes are amazing. I feel the same way. Like I go somewhere, visit, and I'm always happy to get back. It's like, oh, that was fun, and there's a lot of opportunities and things to see, but it's like, but the traffic.
Yeah, exactly.
So, how did your experience at UNM shape you?
Well, oh, it's been formative to have started out at UNM. For one thing, it was my first time leaving home. I was 18, left this community that I had grown up in since the age of like 2, that I had known my whole life. And, I think it was just kind of a given that I was going to go to college. And although are a couple of colleges in Hobbs, it wasn't even a thought that I was going to go away somewhere. And I looked at a few places, but ultimately what drew me to UNM was the lottery scholarship. There were lots of other offers, but they were going to cost so much money. And my dad was a firefighter, and my mom is a nurse. So it's not like they had loads of money to pay for college. And so I chose UNM basically because it was the financially most feasible choice. Once I got to Albuquerque, it was a whole new world, right? Growing up from in Hobbs, such a small town. I think at that time it was about 35,000 people that lived there, and came to Albuquerque, so it felt like a huge, big city. And just meeting people at the dorms from all over, learning about different places where students came from, opening my eyes to all of the different issues, topics, and subject matter that I could learn about and explore through my coursework. I mean, I don't even know, like, I know I'm kind of rambling, but when I think back to being at UNM, it just opened my eyes to so many new ideas that growing up in a small town, and being so young, I just hadn't encountered and hadn't thought about. And so I, I think it set me on a strong path to where I'm at right now. I had a great education. It was an affordable education. I met some of the people that are my best friends to this day. I gained independence, something that I value very strongly. I learned how to live on my own and, still stay connected to family and community back home. And so I guess just in those ways, I would say it comes down to like learning new ideas, being exposed to new, interesting people, learning to accept that we're different and that's okay,
Yeah.
and then being independent and really thriving being independent. So,
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. I always think of Albuquerque as being, very accepting,
yes.
I think New Mexico in general, but especially Albuquerque.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you always know you wanted to be a teacher and work in higher education?
No, not at all. I ended up in education kind of by accident, I guess. I When I came to UNM as an undergrad, I had every intention of becoming a pediatrician, and I went to UNM thinking I was going to study pre-med and major in chemistry, and I did that for the first 3 years of my college education. And I was just struggling so much in my science classes. In high school, I had a chemistry teacher who was very influential. His name was, oh my gosh, now I'm completely forgetting his name. Mark. Oh my gosh. It'll come to me. Anyway, my high school chemistry teacher was very influential and made chemistry seem so fascinating and fun, and we would blow things up in class. He was like that chemistry teacher that was always doing hands-on experiments and really just opening our minds to what was possible through chemical reaction. And so I thought that was what I was going to do in college because I had such a good teacher. But once I got to UNM, what I realized is a teacher can make all the difference in terms of how you connect with the subject matter. And I didn't really connect with chemistry in college, or sciences for that matter. I took a lot of sciences, but they were in these large lecture halls oftentimes. And so I didn't have that meaningful one on one connection with the instructors. It was through labs that I got that one on one connection more so. But even then, I wouldn't say that it was coming naturally to me. I maintained a solid GPA. I was able to keep my scholarship and everything like that. So it wasn't like I was struggling, but it was just not as fun, engaging, and like easy as it was in high school. And I was at the same time taking a bunch of English classes for fun because I always loved to read and I always loved to write. And so those were kind of like my fun classes that I would take. And I was just doing so well in those classes. I was always just acing tests and papers. And, I took them just kind of thinking that maybe I was going to minor in English or minor in theater. I was kind of still undecided. But eventually what ended up happening is there were a series of circumstances that I don't want to get into really, but I just had this epiphany moment where I knew I wasn't happy in the degree I had thought I was going to pursue, and I had a conversation with my parents. I didn't know what I was going to do with an English major. I had no idea. I was like, it'll happen. I'll get an English major. I always kind of felt like I was going to go back to school, but I didn't really know for what, how, when, anything like that. Mm-hmm. Around the same time that I switched my major, I met my current husband, long-term partner, and we became unexpectedly pregnant through a twist in the whole situation of going to college. And so at that point it was like, okay, I need to graduate and I need to get a job. I need to, be a provider. And I did. I ended up working in the nonprofit sector after college, and that was my first job as a professional writer. English prepared me very well to do things like write grants, to do marketing materials for the nonprofit that I was working with, to do things like volunteer communications, all kinds of things. And so I was like, wow, I'm pretty good at professional writing, but I could get even better at it if I went back to grad school. And so I applied to UNM's professional writing program about maybe a year or two after I had graduated with my bachelor's. And as part of that acceptance, I got a TA-ship. And that required me to teach a couple of classes in exchange for tuition. And so it was at that point that I fell in love with teaching, and I kind of was like, wait, hold up, let's reverse. Like, maybe I could actually make this into a career and be a teacher. But I also knew I wanted to teach at a higher level. I didn't want to go do K-12. Mm-hmm. I really saw myself continuing forward with my education. So that's kind of how it all played out. I taught at UNM for those 2 years in my master's program, applied for PhD programs, fully with the intention of coming back to New Mexico. So I didn't apply to UNM for PhD. I wanted to go away so that hopefully they would hire me back after I graduated. And that's pretty much what I did. I went to U of A for 5 years in Tucson, also had a great experience there. And when I was on the job market after finishing my doctorate, New Mexico, Albuquerque specifically, was number one on my list. So I didn't do the wide search for jobs like most academics do. I was very place focused. Mm-hmm. And that was partly because our oldest son stayed here in Albuquerque for those years that we were in Tucson. He stayed with his mom. And so we really wanted to be back with our family and reunite him and his brother. And it was the best move, right? And so that's how it all played out. And then I ended up at CNM, and I'm a firm believer that you end up where you're meant to be. Mm-hmm. And so although I couldn't see it at the time why that was the job for me, now I'm 13 years, going on my 14th year at CNM, and I would say that it all worked out very well.
Wow, thank you for sharing all that. That's some of those things I did not know. So it's really cool. And I, for one, am glad that you all came back to Albuquerque.
Thanks. Yeah.
When y'all came back, for sure.
Oh, I remembered my chemistry teacher, Mark Lynn. I have tried to track him down because, for one, to tell him, hey, I did go and pursue a PhD. And was successful at it, but I hate to break the news that I didn't get my PhD in chemistry. I don't know whatever happened to him. He's not locatable on social media, but he was the influential teacher from Hobbs that encouraged me to pursue chemistry.
Oh, that's really cool. I mean, I could definitely see you in the sciences, but it just like the humanities is such a solid fit for you. And I love that. I love the discovery of kind of stumbling into teaching, where it's
Yes,
like, okay, this is going to be a job, but then it's like, oh, this is my love. So
absolutely.
yeah, that's really cool. So higher education in New Mexico, I think there are a lot of people that don't fully realize all the opportunities, like the scholarship that you mentioned. From your perspective, what makes higher education in Mexico and Albuquerque specifically unique? Or do you think there is an approach to higher education that's different here than other parts of the country?
Well, I think the thing that I would highlight first and foremost is the fact that we have, or the state offers free tuition to New Mexico residents via two different scholarships. One being the lottery scholarship, which is the one I spoke of earlier that allowed me to go to UNM, and the other being the recently offered opportunity scholarship. And I don't think either of those would be possible. It has had New Mexico not elected a very pro-education governor, because she has done so much for education in this state. And when I say that, I don't mean just higher education. I mean education at all levels, free early early childhood education, free childcare that allows parents the opportunity to pursue careers and educational pathways if childcare was a barrier before, and then of course the free college tuition. And so that's the one thing that I think makes New Mexico really stand out first, because not every state offers its residents those opportunities. And let's face it, college is expensive. It's becoming increasingly more expensive. It is not accessible to everyone. I think anyone who wants to pursue a college education, yes, in an ideal world they could. But let's not discount the financial requirement that it takes to pursue a college degree. It is something that is a big financial investment. And so New Mexico really, by offering these scholarship opportunities, removes that barrier and tries to encourage people to better themselves, which is amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you're always going to have your bills, right? Your living expenses, your food, and everything. But the fact that then you pile tuition on top of it, it can be the difference, right? And so having those opportunities is amazing. And the free childcare, oh my goodness! I mean, I think that's so groundbreaking. What Governor Lujan Grisham has done. I mean, to give us childcare in this state is amazing. I mean, it is. It's groundbreaking.
Absolutely.
And it's like, so many other countries have it. And so I think it's just great that we got it.
Yeah,
And it is. It's like you said, it makes all the difference for a lot of people.
absolutely. I feel like in this in 2026 there are a lot of challenges facing the world, the United States. New Mexico feels like a safe haven for me, and I think other people feel that way. It's just a place where there's a lot of progress happening when we're living in this time, and that feels very much like we're moving backwards in some ways. New Mexico is moving forward in very positive ways, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's part of the benefits of flying under the radar of the rest of the nation is we can still kind of do our own thing, and have that safe space for sure. Yeah. So when you think about the future of New Mexico and what kind of degrees and careers and paths do you think are especially important right now? Industries like healthcare, we do need that here for sure. Technology, renewable energy, the film industry comes to mind. So what do you think in career paths for the future in New Mexico?
Well, that's a really good question. I was actually thinking about this question in particular a lot, and I had to step back and think, as somebody who teaches in the humanities and somebody who is very much a proponent of the humanities and liberal arts, I think I want to speak about the value of a liberal arts degree first and foremost. These are the degrees and the programs that are often discounted as not leading to a job or not having that kind of financial security that something that like maybe engineering is going to lead to this like natural transition. You're going to become a civil engineer for a firm and you're going to design roadways and you're going to design waterways and you're going, liberal arts doesn't quite work in that same linear path, but what it does for students is that it provides them with a strong foundation in being able to be critical of the world around them, to ask questions and to be curious and to solve problems creatively. And it's not an in the box kind of degree, right? It's like, but the skills that it builds within students are applicable across jobs. Like I just talked about my pathway into my career, right? And it was through an undergraduate degree in liberal arts that I think set me on that path. I'm a creative problem solver. I'm an effective communicator. I'm somebody who really asks those hard questions that need to be asked in a moment where maybe it's not the most comfortable, right? But we have to ask them because otherwise, how are we going to solve these difficult problems facing our society? And so I think a liberal arts degree, a humanities degree, a humanities education, that's never going to go out of style. It's always going to be important to have those skills in any job, in any career, right? And if somebody's really passionate about it, and they want to major in English, or they want to major in history, or they want to major in Chicana studies, it is going to lead somewhere. It will, because passion leads us where we're meant to go. I think a lot of times we deny those gifts or the passions that we have towards certain subject matter or toward learning about certain topics. When we deny those, that's where we run into maybe some challenges, right? Because we're not honoring our true path. And so for all the listeners out there that are saying like, I really want to study art, but it's never going to make me any money. What I would say is trust that it will. Trust that it will and follow your passion, because that's like denying a part of yourself, you know what I mean? And not everyone's meant to be an artist. Like, Lord knows I'm not meant to be an artist, but we need artists in the world. Can you imagine a world without art? Can you imagine a world without poetry? And so I want to say that first. On a more practical level, in terms of like, those career ready degrees, right? Like you finish your degree and you're going to be like transition into a career very easily. I think there are some that you mentioned that probably will always be a high need. For example, I never see us as a society not needing nurses, doctors, and other healthcare workers. Those are important fields. They play a critical role in our world. So yes, healthcare is always going to be, I think, something that's in high demand. Likewise, I think we'll always need educators, right? We are always going to need educators who are going to teach the next generation. So whether that's early childhood educators, K-12 educators, or higher educators, let's hope that education remains a value that we all share and pursue. And beyond that, just like New Mexico specific, we were for a while experiencing this film boom in the state. And I think that we've seen in recent years, only in the past maybe 2-3 years, that the number of films and TV shows that are being produced and filmed here in the state are kind of on decline. And so there is maybe not as much of that happening. I'm not in that industry specifically as a person in the field, but I have many friends who are deeply embedded as costumers, as set designers, things like that, and they've all shared concerns that the work is declining. And so just as an example, my best friend right now is having to work in Pennsylvania because she needed a job, and that's where she was able to secure work in her specific area. So there are a lot of people having to move out of state to keep that work going. So I don't know if that's going to be something that's permanent or if that's just temporary, but let's hope the film industry comes back because it did provide a lot of jobs for residents.
Yeah, we definitely haven't come back since the strikes. But yeah, hopeful. I mean, I know that there's a couple of things coming in and going to be shot here, but yeah, let's hope it does build back up. That would be awesome. And I agree with you. I mean, you're preaching to the choir about liberal arts. You know,
Yeah.
I have a double major in liberal arts, and it's like, I've had people say, well, you didn't use your degree. And it's like, I use my degree every day.
Absolutely.
You know, it is because the problem solving, the getting creative, the being able to like, okay, let's look at this critically, let's figure this out. And so I'm really with you on the liberal arts and the creative thinking. I think it definitely teaches you how to think, and I think that that's important in whatever field you decide to go into.
Absolutely. Yeah, and another thing that you're really good at that I think I didn't mention earlier, but connecting with people. That's something that you do every day in your job, and it's not the same type of people, right? You're connecting with people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, and I think the ability to do that well, to see the human on the other side, is another value that is often overlooked, and the ability to relate to people in a world right now where we're so disconnected because of, social media, technology, or the long-term impacts of COVID, whatever it may be. It's so important, it's so vital to remain connected, and I think liberal arts gave me that as well.
I agree with you. I think that I always say that too. It's like, it's my job. It's my job to connect with my customers, right? It's not their job to connect to me. And I agree. I think liberal arts did that for me, And I think
Hmm.
also bringing it back to what you were saying earlier about, when you move away, even though I grew up in a large city and you grew up in a small city, I think it's still that experience of taking you outside of what's familiar and seeing something different. And
Yes.
I think that having that college experience, even if you just live in the dorms or, get away from home, I think really helps with that for sure. So a lot of people know about CNM, right? Um,
Hmm.
but they're not, maybe they don't fully understand all the opportunities it offers. I think there's sometimes an outdated notion of community college, that's probably not the reality anymore. What do you think of some of the bigger advantages of going to CNM? And I know we talked a little bit about the scholarships and everything. And also, is it easy to transfer? Like if somebody wants to start off at CNM and then transfer to like New Mexico Highlands or UNM, how easy is it to transfer?
Okay, so let's tackle the question about what are the benefits of going to CNM or another community college. I think there are so many that come to mind, but the first that I would want to highlight are the smaller class sizes that allow students to connect with their professors. So, for example, our classes at CNM are capped at anywhere from, let's say, if it's a smaller cohort program, maybe like 15, all the way maybe to like 31 students, right? Compared to being in a large lecture hall at a research institution where maybe you're one of, 150 upwards of 500 students, right? So every semester that I teach, every semester, and this is not an exaggeration, I learn every single student's name in my classes, and not just like by accident, like it's something that is intentional. I know who they are, I know a little bit about them. I encourage them to reach out and come to student hours, to office hours, to talk to me about their projects. I make that time. And that's not something that's unique to me. That's something that most of my colleagues at CNM do, right? We are there because we are committed to teaching and we want to see our students succeed. So a big advantage of a community college is the fact that students have that chance to really connect with their professors on a personal level, not just in class, but beyond that in office hours and things like that. In terms of other advantages, I mean, of course, cost. It is a fraction of the cost of going to UNM straight away. And, I did that path. I took a couple of classes at New Mexico Junior College the summer before I left to UNM, so right after graduating high school, just to get myself in that college mindset. And same thing, I had small class sizes. I was connected with the two professors that I had that summer, and then went to UNM and did maintain some connections with professors, but it was not the same as being in that smaller space. Um, I saved a lot of money by taking just two classes. Those are two classes that I didn't have to pay for at UNM. And so I don't know the exact numbers of tuition dollars to compare right off the bat, but it is a fraction. And so there's the cost savings that is a benefit. And then just beyond that, I think for a student who maybe is feeling nervous or hesitant about college and is unsure, which many students are, and that's completely normal, CNM can be a great stepping stone to say, let me try this out. Let me take a class and see what it's like. Let me see if I actually like this, if this is something I'm ready to pursue right now, or if it's something that I want to pursue. And right, if say it doesn't pan out for that student, then they're not spending, $1,000, $3,000, $5,000. They did it, they tried it, and maybe it didn't work. But the other thing is that CNM offers, of course, a lot of trades programs and skill programs in skilled areas like automotive technology, HVAC, electrical, electrical degree, electrician's licensing, and that's not the actual degree program, so I'm completely misquoting that. But there are a lot of trades, welding, right, plumbing. There are a lot of trades that students can pursue that are also, I think, really valuable and that are really like meaningful in terms of contributing to our world as well. So, say if a student is maybe like, I don't want to go and get a traditional college degree. Well, guess what? CNM also offers a lot of certificate programs for those kinds of people. So we just have a lot of things that it's almost like anybody who wants to find a career path or to find a path forward in their education will find it at CNM. And they'll at the same time benefit from those one-on-one connections, hopefully, that they can make with their instructors and from the many cool events that are happening on campus all the time. Lots of free resources. One thing that I think has been really great in recent years at CNM that we have is we have a food pantry on every campus. And so college students don't have to worry about like, okay, how am I going to pay for my groceries this week? They can go to the food pantry and they can pick up not just food items, but also things like their things like toothpaste, shampoo, soap. Like we give
Like
out
toilet.
those things to students so that they don't have to worry about that financial, if it is a financial burden for them, right? Like they don't have to worry about like, where am I gonna, get my food for this week? Like we have these resources. We also have counseling services that are available to students online through CNM Wellness. So we have this whole wellness program. They do everything from offer workshops for students on how to manage stress during those high stress times of the semester, midterms and finals. They do things like free yoga, free meditation, and then it goes all the way to like, we're gonna help you if you need to access counseling services. We will set you up with that. So there's a lot of I think the common term for it in higher ed is wraparound support. So CNM has really invested in this wraparound support in recent years, and I think it's absolutely critical for students because if you're not well, or if you can't provide the basic fundamentals for yourself, then how are you ever going to succeed as a college student, right? But CNM really thinks about that and is like, well, let's try to help them as much as we can so that they can be successful in our classes. And I think that's really wonderful.
It is. I didn't know all of that. I didn't know about the food pantry. I never heard the term wraparound education. So I definitely learned something new, and that's really exciting because it is. It's like, like we were talking about earlier with the childcare and everything. It's like, okay, so you may be able to like figure out like with the scholarship going to school, but there's still going to be there's still rent and food and life.
Hmm.
And so I love that. I did not know that. Thanks for sharing that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, is it, I guess I'm assuming like, like taxpayers help contribute, but is there like does C&M take donations?
Well, that's a good question. I'm sure that they would not deny donations. I know that, for example, our department, the English department, has done a couple of drives this last year, thanks to our department chair. She's really spearheaded our department trying to get involved. And so one of the things that they need often is like things like diapers and baby formula, because we have a lot of students who are providing childcare to their young children, right? And so diapers are expensive, formula is expensive, and so that it just so happened that at one point that was a high need that they had expressed at the pantry, and so we all donated things and took it on behalf of the department. So I imagine that they would welcome things like that, and I'm sure just looking on the website would provide that information. But they also have local partners that they work with to distribute things like fresh produce. I mean, the pantry is great. It's not just like you're getting ramen, right? Like, yes, you might get some ramen, but you might also get some fresh zucchini and fresh tomatoes as well. It's really awesome. And I always try to make sure my students know about it, because a lot of times it's pretty surprising. They're like, "What? We have a pantry on campus and I can go every week?" Yeah, absolutely, and you should, because right,
That's
that
there.
takes a mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had no idea. I
Yeah.
love it. So in the summer when I have an over production of produce, I have somewhere to bring it.
Yeah, your legendary garden green beans that
Yeah,
everybody loves.
I just planted them this weekend.
Nice.
So one thing that I think is important is helping people understand what resources are available, and of course, we just covered a lot of that with the scholarships and the food pantry and programs. Um, is there any advice that you would like to give for families who are worried about the cost of college? I mean, is it pretty easy to apply? Is it pretty much for everybody, or is there specific, like, I guess, qualifications that you need for these scholarships?
These are good questions. Okay, so um, number one advice, do your research, right? Like, especially if a family is going into higher ed and maybe their child or their or they themselves are the first to go to college, there's so many questions and it can feel overwhelming. So I would say step one, take some time to do some research, look at UNM's website and see what UNM says about the application process. Look at CNM's website, see what CNM says about the application process. They are much less overwhelming than they seem once you start digging in and doing the research, right? So start with that, and then I would say from there make a connection with the institution that you want to attend. So at CNM, that might be by making an appointment to speak with an advisor, or maybe it's calling CNM Connect and trying to find out who can answer the questions that you have. Um, and I think that one-on-one kind of conversation or interaction becomes important at a certain point. In terms of eligibility, for the lottery scholarship, that is specifically meant for New Mexico high school graduates, or those who earn their high school equivalency within 16 months. They have to kind of pursue that. So as long as they're going to pursue an associate's, a bachelor's degree within, or a bachelor's degree, excuse me, within 16 months, they would be eligible. And I think they have a certain GPA that maybe they have to meet in terms of high school graduation. So the lottery scholarship, let's just think about it as it's for new high school graduates, right? And then you can find out more details regarding eligibility online through either New Mexico Higher Education Department's website or through the institution that you're looking to apply to. The Opportunity Scholarship is more open in the sense that it is available to all New Mexico residents with established residency. So again, go to the New Mexico Higher Education Department's website to determine, do you qualify as a resident, and then once you do, it's like you can go part-time, you can go full-time, you can pursue a certificate, you can pursue an associate's, you can pursue a bachelor's. So there's a little bit more in terms of option, because it's not like you have to just be freshly graduated from high school. You might be somebody who had a career for 15 years, but that career wasn't in any way related to a college degree, but you always wanted to go to college, let's say. And so here you are, your kids are grown, and you're like, I always thought maybe I would want to go to college, and maybe I'm ready for something new. Let me look into this Opportunity Scholarship and see if I decide to change my career path, or if I decide to pursue a certain degree, could I get support with that? And the answer is probably yes, if you're a resident and you live in New Mexico, which is really wonderful, right? So for those of you who might be like thinking about, you're in midlife and you're thinking about your choices and you're ready to kind of shift for the second part of your life, then look into those, because I think education is really, it's such a strong it's such an important part of our society, but it's so important for, I think, learning and self-fulfillment and all these other things. But yeah.
I was going to say, like, the evolution of careers, right? Like, we were talking earlier about the film industry, and there's folks that maybe, it's like, okay, it's not happening for them here necessarily. They don't want to move. They've bought a place or whatever. So this is a way to like try something else. Or let's say that, you get laid off or something, and it's like, so this is great that there's that opportunity to pursue something maybe that you've always wanted to try.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Or to enhance the skills that you already have. Sometimes it's a matter of like, I'm feeling like I want to go further in my career, and how can I do that? Maybe I need to like, develop skills in a certain area. Opportunity Scholarship would allow that as well. I was going to say, realized I didn't answer one of your questions about transfer. So the other great thing about New Mexico college and university system is that we have this agreement between all of the higher education institutions in the state that basically allows transfer of credits to be more seamless. So if somebody takes, for example, English 1110 at CNM, we have the same learning outcomes for our English 1110 class that UNM or NMSU or any other college has, so that that class easily transfers across state institutions. And so that was under this trifecta kind of act that happened a few years ago. I feel like that was pre-pandemic, where all of the state higher education institutions kind of came together and like had this common set of outcomes for our gen ed courses. And we kind of came to an agreement that, yeah, we should make our courses similar in our learning outcomes, so that when a student goes from one place to the next, right, the transfer is much easier and they don't have to like contest whether a course should or shouldn't count. And so if you start at CNM and you take your general education coursework, which is generally those first 2 years of foundational courses, then you're going to have an easy time transitioning to UNM because of that trifecta agreement. So
that's great. So you don't feel like, okay, like, oh, great, I just went this 2 years and I feel like I'm losing 6 months of my credits because it's not transferring.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That should not happen.
That's awesome. So a little bit about high school students. From what I understood, I've known some folks that were taking, whether in like their senior year of high school, also taking classes at UNM and CNM. Do you think is that available, or am I making things up? And do you think that's a good path?
Dual enrollment, or dual credit as it's sometimes called. Yeah, it is available. It's available at CNM and at UNM. I am actually on the dual credit advisory committee at CNM as well, so I have a pretty strong understanding of how it works, although right now we're in the process of really looking at that program and how we can make sure that it's setting students up for success. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for high school students who are ready and feeling like motivated and inspired to get some college credits out of the way before they graduate high school. I also think, on an equal note, I think it's really important for high school students to be kids.
Yeah.
And so it has to be a balance. And I would say I've worked with a lot of dual credit students over the years. I've had so many in my classes, and I can give you kind of two hypothetical scenarios. So let's say there's a high school student who is taking the full high school load, and they also have extracurricular involvement at their high school. Maybe they're in, band, or maybe they're in a student club, and, maybe they're also like trying to have a social life in high school, and they want to have time to, be with friends. And then they also have a job working, at some place, maybe 20 hours a week. Okay. So that's already so much for a high school student to have to manage and navigate, right? And let's say that somewhere along the lines they hear about dual credit, but then maybe they get this advice that like they should take 2 or 3 college classes, right? I think that's a lot when a student is already managing a full load in high school. So I would just say, as a first step for anyone who's considering dual credit, it's a good idea to start with a class and see how it goes. And if it goes well and the student's feeling like, okay, I can maintain this balance, I have the time, I have the motivation, I have the support to continue, then obviously that's great. Let's say there's a student who's in their last semester of their senior year, and they've finished most of their high school credits, and they're only having to take 2 or 3 classes before graduation, and they have all this free time, and they want to make sure that they're, setting themselves up. That's like a no-brainer, right? Like if they're motivated to go to college and they have the extra time, and they're curious to see what college is about, then yeah, pursue dual credit. So I think every high school student is different. I think what we should not do is to make dual credit compulsory for high school students, which actually was the case in New Mexico. There was a time where every high school student had to take at least 1 college class in order to graduate. And now the public education department has kind of backed off of that, and those rules are changing, I think, this year or next year. And I think that's smart, because we want to make sure that we are meeting our students where they're at, and being realistic about every student having their own kind of unique and individual needs and goals for their education. And so it's one size does not fit all when it comes to students. And so I think with dual credit, high school students who, like for me personally, I was in honors AP classes all of high school. I was highly motivated. I was highly social. I was in honor society. I was in student council. I was in all of the clubs. I would never have, I did not do dual credit, and I don't think I would have been a good fit for dual credit, even though I had a 4.0 GPA and I was college bound, right? I just don't think that it would have worked for me, because I valued my like social life as a high school student, and I valued all this extracurricular involvement, and I also was like taking hard classes already, difficult classes through honors AP. So it wasn't something that like would have worked for me. I had my oldest son who has a master's in chemical engineering, did some dual credit classes, and did great. He wanted to get a few college credits out of the way, and it worked for him, right? So like I said, different people, different needs, different goals. And so I would just encourage any parent who's thinking about dual credit for their high school student to really think about their student and the amount of time a college class is going to require. So let's just say it's a 3 credit class. That's not 3 hours a week that the student is spending. That's 6 to 8 hours, right? Because you have to think about class time, homework time, project time, travel time. So don't underestimate the amount of time for one class. I would say a 3 credit class, let's just say on the humble side, 6 hours a week. If it's a 4 credit hour class, that's 8 hours a week. So you want to double the credit hour. And you have to ask, is my student able to do that? Are they able to commit to that time? And is it going to be at the expense of something else that's really important for them, such as their extracurriculars, their jobs, their, high school classes, which are also very important, all those other things, right? And so I think there's a lot of really important questions around dual credit that people can be asking. And then I've had really wonderful dual credit students that have just really I've met them and I'm like, what? You're a high school student? You're like above and beyond what my average student is doing. So, and I can think of just off the top of my head 2 students come to mind when I think about that I've had that one I'm sure has moved on to their goal was to go to New Mexico Tech, and I have no doubt that that's where they are, thriving, probably getting a 4.0, just doing really great work. And that student was a high school student in my class, just completely kicking butt. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Marissa. This has been awesome. Has there been anything about CNM that you want to include or think that we haven't covered? We've covered a lot of ground, which has been great.
Let's see. Well, I guess what I would say is if somebody decides to go to CNM as a student, maybe this is important to mention that get involved, right? CNM, it is a community college, which means that we're teaching students of many different backgrounds, age groups, demographics, life experiences, and I think sometimes students will go to their class and then head home, right? It's not, people don't live on campus, so there's no dorms, it's go to class, get my stuff done, and leave. But CNM actually hosts a lot of really wonderful events, all the time. And these are events that are open to students, but they're also events that are open to the community. And so I would say if a student is looking to go to CNM, one of the most important pieces of advice I would offer is get involved in a club or organization that reflects your interests or your experiences or your career path. We have everything from the when I think about, we have Phi Theta Kappa, which is the honor society. We have a student nursing association group that my student just emailed me and said she was elected to president of. I'm very excited for her. We have art club, we have queer cats, we have let's see, I don't know, you name it, we probably have a student group for it. It's really awesome.
I didn't notice any of that about CNM because you think community college is something like you said, you go on campus, you take your class, you leave. But yeah, that's
ECOS, the Executive Council of Students. That's our student government. They make a lot of decisions on behalf of students. So yeah, get involved is what I would say. And then try to attend some events, because the attendance from both the public and student population, our campus population, is what allows us to keep having these kinds of events. So, for example, every Black History Month, which is February of every year, right? For every annual, Hispanic Heritage Month, Black History Month, Women's History Month, Asian American Pacific Islanders Appreciation Month, Native American History Month, we always have events around those kinds of things that are happening on a national level. We'll have campus events as well. And they're always so awesome. It's everything from music to cultural experiences to cooking demonstrations, you name it. And sometimes I think people just don't know that these events are happening. And they're free and they're open to the public a lot of times. We have another thing, we have a student creative arts and literary magazine called Leonardo, which was a finalist for what is the college equivalent of the Pulitzer. It has been nationally recognized, and it is all student work, student photography, student art, student poetry, student writing. this year we had a recipe that made its way into the Leonardo magazine, and so every year with that, when we release the newest edition, we have a visiting writer come in and do free poetry workshops on campus, and then do a public reading at the library, and that's always like so much fun. And these are writers that are like of, of note, right? Like these are really amazing writers that we bring to campus. And so for people who are just in the Albuquerque area, don't sleep on C&M. Check out our events page. We have a lot of cool stuff happening, and oftentimes these events are open to you, and hopefully that'll get more people on campus and maybe more people curious and interested in our courses.
That's awesome. I didn't know about that. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to start looking and posting some of this because this is good stuff. I've gone to the play,
Yeah.
which there's still a play that like sticks out in my head from pre-COVID that I think about that was like really touching, and it was like the student writers, just some amazing writers, and being in
Yeah.
Leonardo magazine doesn't surprise me at all with our New Mexico creativity and just intelligence and everything. So yeah, that's very
Yeah,
nice to
I
know.
feel like I feel like you and I went to that play together, if it's the one I'm
Yes.
thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah, we've gone to a couple, but yeah, that was just one that just was so well done and just so like deep and thoughtful. It was really good. So
Um,
go ahead.
and then one other thing that I thought about is, you know, a community college is a great place for a person that just wants to learn for learning's sake as well. Like you want to take a class, you're interested in a certain topic, and you don't want to spend thousands of dollars in tuition, but you have maybe enough money saved up that you just want to take a class to enrich yourself. Let's not forget that, being a lifelong learner is a really valuable thing too. Sometimes learning isn't so much focused on a career pathway or on a degree program. Sometimes we want to learn just because we're curious, and I think that is something that we could stand to value more as a society, learning for learning's sake, just being curious and kind of continual growth, being that lifelong student. And so for those listeners who are maybe like see themselves as lifelong learners, who are curious about like taking a literature class or a creative writing class or a music appreciation class or an art class, right? CNM has that, and you don't have to be degree or certificate bound just to sign up for a class because you want to learn. And so if you check out the catalog, I'm sure you'll find a course that speaks to your heart. And maybe if you're a retiree or you're somebody who just has a lot of free time and you want to do something fun in the way of learning, check out CNM.
That's awesome. Yeah, a language even learning for
Yeah, language. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot languages. I share an office with two Spanish profesoras and I take their class.
Shout out. I always like to bring it back to Albuquerque, right? Because that's what this podcast is about. It's about, the community and people that make it great. So one specific question that I'm asking you that I haven't asked anybody else, what's your favorite place to study in Albuquerque?
Oh, well, I have a lot of favorite places to study. Oh my goodness. I love a good coffee shop. I'm a coffee shop kind of person. There was a time in my career where I was teaching 5 classes a semester, which is a ton of grading. So I would have these places that I would have to go to grade so that I could kind of be in my zone. And so we have so many wonderful coffee shops in Albuquerque. I mean, we have Slow Burn, one of my absolute favorites, with Michael Thomas, another favorite. I recently discovered one in Nob Hill that I'm forgetting the name of. I'll have to think about it in a minute. We have Cutbow. Now we have La Luz in the North Valley, which is so popular.
The Del Norte is my favorite.
Yeah, they
It's
have good coffee. I'm gonna look up this place in Nob Hill. But anyway, a good coffee shop is always my go-to. When I was on UNM campus, of course, it was the library, Zimmerman, just because they have these beautiful large study tables that are also very quiet and meant for studying. Do you know, well, right across the street from Flying Star and Daily Ritual, I think. Yes, Daily Rituals. I love that place. I just a friend recently introduced me to that place, and it is so cool. I love it. The
Amazing.
vibe in there is really nice. Of course, Little Bear. Study during the day and then shift to a cocktail by 5.
We still haven't hit up their basement to check that out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, so what does Albuquerque mean to you?
To me, Albuquerque means home, it means family, it means culture, it means belonging, it
Mhm.
means the mountains and the bosque, and it means friendship, it means heart, corazon, it's my place, it's the place I've
Yeah.
lived in my entire almost adult life, except for the 5 years that I went to grad school at U of A. And so, yeah, I think, in Spanish there's a word called querencia, and it's this idea that many Chicana feminist scholars write about and talk about, and it's like this idea of belonging and belongingness, and Albuquerque certainly represents that for me. It is a place that when I drive down I-40 headed west, from Hobbs, and I see those mountains, there's something that maybe pulses a little bit in my heart because it's home. Or when I'm driving
Mhm.
up I-25 north from Tucson, and I see, I come over through Isleta and see the trees lining the bosque. Again, it's just this feeling that like I'm here and I'm safe and I'm secure because it's home.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Absolutely. It's a wonderful feeling to have that for when you're just like back, it's like, oh, just that
Yeah.
great feeling. So when somebody asks you, Marisa, what's Albuquerque really like? What do you say?
I say that I don't know. It depends on who the person is because, like, uh, I mean,
A liberal art, liberal
Are they
makers.
considering moving here? That's the first question, and then after that, it's like, well, we have this joke, you and I, a little bit about like people moving here, and they either really love it. It's like Albuquerque wraps them up in
Mhm.
its arms and is like, stay, or they don't like it. And it's like Albuquerque is saying, no, this isn't a good fit. It's not you, it's me. So it's,
For sure.
and so I think that reaction to Albuquerque happens pretty often. Like you find people that are transplants, and it can go either way. But what's it really like? I would say that it's a place where there's a lot of culture and a lot of community,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of progressive ideas. There are a lot of progressive people. Um, I would say that people should try to avoid believing the hyped up, news about crime. It does happen, but it happens everywhere. Albuquerque is actually, I think, I've felt safe living here, and there have been moments that, of course, like
Mhm.
crime happens, but overall, I feel like the city is very welcoming, um, very culturally and ideologically diverse, right? There's a lot of different ideas swirling about that we can learn from. Um, there's really cool, fun events to attend, and I don't know, it's a good place to raise kids too. I think my kids enjoyed growing up here, and one so much that he stayed. So that's, I think, a good sign. Um, and one didn't get very far. He's 3 hours north, so he
Yeah, yeah,
basically stayed.
pretty much stayed.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's cool to see him being the mountain man that he is. Uh,
yeah. And I love like that we have, this bosque river that runs through the middle of our city, and you can go there if you need a reset, and it's literally in the heart of Albuquerque. But then we also have these mountains to the east that are also soul giving, that have so many trails and for hiking and biking. And then we have to the south, of course, the volcanoes. We can't forget about the sisters that
yeah,
are also beautiful views in all directions. So
yeah.
just the like natural landscape of Albuquerque, it's really spectacular. And I don't know that you get all of that very often in one place.
I have to agree with you. I don't think we do, especially like the last few days where we've had a little bit of actual weather with a little bit of rain and just the different
Mm-hmm.
clouds. The cloud formations are so beautiful. And when we don't have the clouds, that bright blue sky, like from The Simpsons,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
that's just so amazing. So,
Yeah, let's not leave out the spectacular sunsets.
oh yeah, it's a different show every night. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
Albuquerque, I always see Albuquerque as a woman, and it's like she's just showing off how beautiful she is. There she is. There.
There she
There she
is.
is too, right? So, what's your favorite hidden gem in Albuquerque?
By hidden gem, do you mean like, I mean anything? Anything goes?
Yeah, anything goes. Something that you think that somebody should really know about. Like, what do you think is just like maybe enough people don't enjoy it or know about it, or and you may not want to share because you're like, oh, I don't want a lot of people to go there, but
Yeah, that is also a consideration. But honestly, like, I would say that my favorite place to go because it's close to where I live, the place that I go to when I need to be grounded and maybe to have a moment of just being present or connected to nature is the bosque. Like, I just love it down there. It's walking the trails. I feel so small in the cottonwoods, and it just looking out into the river and seeing the changes. Sometimes it's full, sometimes it's low, sometimes there's like a little bit of concern, like are we running out of
where's the
water to where's the water at? You see cranes down there, you see geese, and of course people walking their dogs. I would say if I had to pick a place, that would probably be at the top of my list. I really love the Bosque.
It's very special. There's just something about the Rio Grande in that valley that is it's so soulful and just feels so
Hmm.
good. It's nourishing.
Yeah.
So if somebody's visiting for Albuquerque for the first time, what do you think they should miss? Would it be the Bosque?
Well, yeah, I think it shouldn't. The Bosque should definitely be up there, um, and obviously that depends on like accessibility, like as if the person has the ability to get down there. The trails are ADA, I think, accessible for the most part, but right, it
Yeah.
can be a little challenging maybe. Um, I think we have some really amazing artists in New Mexico. Albuquerque Museum never disappoints in terms of just the caliber of art that's on display. Also, um, is it called? Let me think about this. Lapis Room.
Uh,
Lapis Room in
or-
Old Town
mm.
has amazing artwork. I love going to their shows because I always discover new artists that I maybe didn't know about, or maybe I'm rediscovering in a new exhibition that they have. I really love that place too. Bonus that it's hooked up to a winery.
A
So,
good winery too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Although Sheehan is probably my favorite. I really love them. They're down in Old Town as well. Um, local winer, vintner. That's another hidden gem. Sheehan Winery, I would say. Go down to Old Town and check out some of the New Mexico wines. We are
Yeah.
definitely like earning our name in the wine industry.
Yeah, I don't think people know about the Rio Grande Valley and all the vineyards, with that. So yeah, no, that's one of the hidden gems.
Yeah.
So what do you hope Albuquerque, like if you had your way, do you hope Albuquerque becomes in the next 10 to 20 years?
In the next 10 to 20 years, I hope that Albuquerque can remain a safe haven for people who are vulnerable, for people who are oppressed and exploited in other places. Hope that it continues to be a place where women's reproductive rights are protected. I hope that it continues to be a place where our LGBTQ plus community feels safe and welcome, and where our migrant community feels safe and welcome.
Yeah.
So I just hope that Albuquerque continues to thrive um, as this place of safety, where when in a world that maybe And let's hope it doesn't get this way, but in a world that looks like it's continually becoming more unsafe for people, I would like to see that. That's more on a philosophical level. On a maybe developmental level, it would be nice to see some of the connection in terms of transportation that we see in similar sized cities like Tucson, where they have a streetcar that connects to the bus station, that connects to like all the metro transport. There's some really cool things happening that allow people to access different areas of the city there, that I think Albuquerque could easily kind of model itself after. But
I agree. Yeah. I like the philosophical and I like the practical for sure. I do think that Albuquerque and Santa Fe in particular, as far as cities go, and especially in New Mexico, are open and accepting. And I wouldn't want to change either. And I agree with you about the transportation. Especially, we're not a super wealthy city. And so having just good public transportation, I think, would be a big bonus, right? And it doesn't,
absolutely.
sometimes it is good just to say, okay, I'm going to leave the car, at home and go out and have that kind of public, and have public transportation that supports that. That would be awesome. I would love to see that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Marissa, thank you. Thank you for joining me today and doing this. I really appreciate it. And you have a really good perspective, and I think it's an important perspective. So I appreciate you.
Thanks, Jen. It's always good to talk to you.
Yeah, it's good. It's like spending time together. I guess it is fun. So thank you, everyone. I'm Jennifer Wilson. This is Living Albuquerque. Until next time, live well, live birthday. Thank you for listening to Living Albuquerque. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and share it with someone who loves Albuquerque or is thinking about calling it home. Until next time, live well, live birthday.